She was the biggest in the fleet. She was the mightiest of them all. She was the heaviest of them all, and she had the biggest guns of them all. The legend would live on, and she would still carry on in any respect and way possible. However, there is that one saying that I came up with a couple of years back. Well, it wasn't actually me, it was Admiral Yamato himself. Gone are the days where battleships ruled the waves. The future belongs to aircraft carriers, he said. Yet somehow, the biggest still consisted of Yamato herself. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Battleship Yamato's model review. Obviously, guys, this is going to be a slightly longer video because obviously it has been a good number of years since I spoke about Yamato. So you have to bear with me, guys. First and foremost, let's talk a bit about her history. Yamato is the biggest battleship to ever be considered on the planet. Yes, okay, the Iowas were definitely longer, but in tonnage-wise, the Yamato, Musashi, and if she was built as a battleship, Shinano and her other two sisters would have been 72,000-ton behemoths. 72,000 tons. They're only a couple of thousand tons behind an aircraft carrier. Just amazingly massive. Yamato herself. Oh, guys, where do we start? Let's start from the beginning. So Yamato was actually laid down in 1937, and she was launched on August the 8th, 1940. So just a year after World War II had started. She was commissioned and ready to go by 1941, and unfortunately for Yamato, she didn't really see too much action. Her major actions were going in Midway and being the flagship. Then she was used as task force leader in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. So guys, I'm just trying to remember with my brain as it works. And she did severely damage one of the escort carriers in Leyte Gulf, and it is believed that the USS Johnston took a hit from one of her massive guns. We'll talk a bit more about these beasts in a minute. After the Leyte Gulf, obviously we all know the Japanese weren't doing too well in World War II after that, and the idea was to send Yamato out to Okinawa to make her into a floating, semi-floating gun battery to stop Allied forces from invading. However, this did not work, and very soon in 1944 she would be attacked by not 200, not 300, but a whopping 360 odd aircraft. Bless them. I could not imagine what the guns were thinking on Yamato when she was under attack, but you look at Sabaton, you look at some of the documentaries, and even the older film that was made a good 20 or so years ago, you kind of get a glimpse into what the crew of the Yamato were thinking. Yamato did not sink straight away. She took a whopping 18 torpedoes and half a dozen bomb hits before she even decided to sink. And she didn't go down quietly. Oh no, no. Yamato tipped over, and as she was in her roll, she exploded into two areas. One was about here, where the main and secondary gun magazines are, and that split the bow off. And then there was another explosion somewhere back here, just underneath, I do believe is where the engine room was, or one of the engine rooms. But Yamato still lives on in many different things and cultures. Obviously, one of them is something which I absolutely adore, is Space Battleship Yamato. A little bit goofy for some people, but I absolutely love the series. And obviously, yes, World of Warships, War Thunder, I'm also looking at you, because back in the day, I did have this ship, and people did not like being hit by the guns. So enough talking about the actual history of the ship. Let's talk about, her armament and stuff, basically. Start off with, these guns are not 16-inch, they're not 14-inch, they're not 12-inch. These are the biggest guns a battleship has ever been armed with. These things are whopping 18.1-inch or 466 millimeter guns. 400 and sorry, not 466. I'm talking about 460 millimeter guns, 18.1 inch. So, how do I describe this to you guys? So, imagine a small car, then loading that into the barrel. That's what Yamato's lobbering at you. No wonder why Paul Johnston and the St. Louis didn't survive for very long. But that's not all she had. She had a secondary battery of 6.1 inch guns. Now, these guns may look a little familiar to some of you because they are actually of the Mogami class before they refit into heavy cruisers. And in her original configuration, Yamato would have another two of his turrets mounted where all these anti-aircraft guns are. You guys will have to apologise. Obviously, again, this model of my Yamato is she's a little old. I think I finished her back in 2018, 2017. I got a lot of kits built back in the day, didn't I? Nevertheless, she had, like I say, she had two more of those mounted in the centre when she started with, and this literally made her the floating fortress the Japanese were after. And any battleship that was built prior to her basically became obsolescent overnight. Bismarck, Tirpitz, no. I don't even want to think what would happen if one of those came up against this. I know Bismarck got lucky with Hood, and I know Tirpitz took a lot of bomb hits before she sank and all that stuff, but I would not want to put her up against Yamato. The same goes for any of the Iowas or the North Carolinas. Yeah, they do have punching power and they do have armour to take it, but I just would not want to get hit in the wrong place with those guns. It would hurt. Yamato's armour, her belt armour in particular, is actually 16 inches, which is 410 millimeters. So she could take and dish those 16-inch guns from the Iowas, even though they're 16.5-inch guns, but nevertheless, you just wouldn't want to take her on, and don't even think about putting things like poor old Warspite or other older warships towards her, because I can just imagine a bunch of HMS Hoods happening all at once. I mean, I suppose if you all came in at once and blew up that way, you probably could, but what are the odds? Anyway, enough boasting about her. Let's talk about her as a model. So, my model of Yamato is a 1/350 scale, guys. Don't ask me too much on the details. Again, I built this model a long time ago, and as I say, she still sits proudly in my shelf. But I do remember one of three things. The kit is to me a model kit, and the photo etch are Edgard, I believe was the word for it. I think it was Edgard. But you do get the photo etch sets. You do get some photo etch railings and bits and pieces. Believe it or not, that crane back there where they'd hoist the aircraft up is also made of photo etch parts. I recall trying to build the aircraft catapults out of photo etch, but they didn't work out too well for me, so I left them and used the ones that she came with. The wooden deck is also another thing which I got with the kit, because I did want to give Yamato the best look I could possibly give her, hence the reason why I've also weathered her to make her look like she's been used quite a bit. And as I say, she still sits proudly in the shelf today. There were aircraft, in case anyone was wondering, but they fell off. When the place I'm living in got a refit done to it, we moved all my models, and not sure what happened to Yamato, but I know the aircraft just disappeared, and I never saw them again, which is a shame because they did give her that scale look to her. So, obviously, do I recommend getting a model kit of the Yamato? Obviously, I absolutely do, guys. If you want to get yourself the biggest, the baddest, and the most dangerous of them all, Yamato or Musashi are going to be definitely the things you're going to want to get. I always say to people, if you're after some battleship model kits in 1/350 scale, there are 4 ships I recommend to get and start with. Yamato, Iowa, or Missouri, or one of her sisters, depending on what your take is there, Bismarck, and of course, most important of all, Hood or Warspite. Talk a bit more about those later, guys, but they're my recommendations. So, one other thing I will mention, because when I got this kit I was extremely lucky. She is not a cheap kit. I have seen her going in shops and on eBay for well over £90 to £110, and yeah, it's a little expensive, but considering the size of the model and considering the detail you get with the kit, I do recommend her. So yeah, that's basically it really, guys. Again, sorry the review is a bit short and sweet and a little bit under information, but again, this model I built a good couple of years ago, so I'm a little rusty remembering some of the details. As a matter of fact, I've recently started writing down bits and pieces so I don't forget in the future, just in case something goes wrong with any of me information in the future. You know, just stuff people can look back on if they wanted to. But that's it for Yamato, guys. So thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this model review. I'll see you all in the next one. In the meantime, have a nice weekend. Have a nice weekend. Look after yourselves out there. Ta-ta for now.